Okay, perfect. We already have people joining. So we're just waiting for some more people to join here. Okay. It's 2 minutes past 10, so I guess it's time to start. Yeah, okay. let's start. So welcome everyone. I would give the floor to Roberto Zangrandi, the Secretary General of EDSO, for some opening words.
Yes, just a good morning to everybody, and a couple of words. This is for us a recurrent event. We cherish very much in sharing the infos about our projects with the larger public. And there are two moments in a project very much important. The first one is when the demos and the deliverables are, and you have that smile that says, well, all went well. It deserved the dedication and the fatigue that sometimes accomplishing projects involves. And the second one is when you come across people and they know that you were involved in that project and they know what the project was all about. And this is one of those moments, and we are very happy to offer for the first time in a row details about our projects. Sebastian, you can take from here. You're muted.
Yeah, thank you. I hope, or I had some struggles understanding, but I hope it was just on my computer. But thank you for opening. I would just jump into this so that everybody is aware the session is being recorded, and you can ask questions throughout the whole event during the Q&A box. If you have any other concerns or feedback, here is the email address of the projects, EDSO projects team, so feel free to contact us. Very briefly about the agenda. Next, we're going to hear from Richard Wittler. Sorry for pronunciation. Manager of Innovation and EU projects, and also board member and chair at the EDSO IRCO committee. After him, we have the honor to hear from Zoe de Linde, Deputy Head of Unit at the European Commission. After which we're gonna have the long-awaited European Project Roundtable with Valerie Reif, OneNet, Platone, and Interconnect. After this Projects Roundtable, we take a closer look at the skills gap in Europe in the energy sector with Maria Duran from Iberdrola. I'm talking about the EDI project. finally, in the end, at around 11:35, hopefully, Catherine Vigneron, again, sorry for the pronunciation, my French is not the best, account manager at Senelec. So that being said, I would give the floor to Richard for the welcome address. Please, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everybody. I hope you are hearing me well. My name is Richard Widlichka, and I am chairing Innovation and Research Committee of EDSO. Let me welcome all of you to another webinar project in the spotlight. And I would like warmly welcome Ms. Zoe de Linde, Deputy Head of Unit of DG Connect, and I wish to thank her for joining us today. So, my mission is today to open this meeting in a very rush time. First of all, I like to say that EU DSO, EDSO, and all the other associations are collaborating very well. And we in EDSO, we achieved some stage of maturity, because some of you may remember during the last similar webinars, we mentioned that we put stress on knowledge sharing, and we should raise activity of our members, not only of our members, but all of the European DSOs to participate in projects, to put emphasis on innovation, because that's the only way how we can achieve the common targets. And not only the climate targets, but also to improve resilience or increase resilience, better said, and also to come into the situation that we are able and we are willing to share the knowledge and to find the best solution which could be rolled out. So I'm very pleased that, in my opinion, we have achieved the situation. We passed some stages, and we are really in position that we, together with other parties, are able to test new technologies in order to bring value to our customers. Please, another slide. And that's in graphical form, expression, what I try to describe, that if you see this slide, you may remember that this slide was displayed, if I'm not mistaken, during the second Projects in Spotlight meeting. And now I think that really, and thanks to all the parties, they collaborate with us, we achieve the stage or the phase number 4, and we are in position to concentrate on real values. Another slide, please. New technology testing, knowledge sharing, and let's say catalyzing of innovation process. We manage to include in day-to-day business of the most DSOs. That's not the issue now or the question. And I think we share all this value that we don't need to support knowledge sharing more, because knowledge sharing is an integral part of DSO's culture. And in my opinion, it's a real necessity for us to collaborate. And that's a first, or maybe the first, good message of today's meeting, that we all do not need to persuade each other that we need to collaborate. The new technologies, it's never-ending process. Launching those technologies is the center of our activities. But without projects and without prior testing of, let's say, impacts or benefits of the new technologies, we couldn't be successful. So the first conclusion I am able to offer you today is that the projects counts because projects, in our EDSO opinion, projects can bring value. And this message may be you have heard in other webinars, in other meetings, but some of us put a question mark to this message. Is that true or not? And I think that it's a true message, and we can shift our mind on higher level and to prepare terms and conditions for higher level collaboration. And EDSO has been doing as much as possible to catalyze and to boost those processes. Another slide, please. Maybe you would or you will not agree with me, but I think that not everything is under sunshine, or not everything is positive. DSOs now have been facing some constraints, and to sum up those constraints, I think that most of us will solve the problem with lack of internal capacities. We have to discuss a lot with all the parties, with the European Commission, with ACER, with national regulators, about the maybe adjusted regulatory framework, because some regulatory obligations, or let's say rules, not or do not support projects activities as we expected. Equipment supply and permitting. There are some factors that may have influence on willingness to participate in projects, because the supply chain disruption and also unsolved permitting processes in member states sometimes can slow down the project activities of our members and of other European DSOs. So please display another slide. So we think that what is in the spotlight now, and not only in projects, but resilience, how to increase resilience, and now I'm talking about the general approach to resilience, not only technical, but we can spend some time on discussion about the cybersecurity importance in DSO's life. Digitalization is also integral part of most DSO's company cultures. These obstacles can be only temporary, but I like to raise your attention to them because we have to take them into account. Efficiency is also a very global issue, because we can take into account energy savings, new technologies like equipment. They can minimize the losses in network, and also the technologies that could enable us to absorb more renewables connected to our grid. Please, another slide. There are some expectations, and it's my input to the further discussion, because I am not saying that everybody shares the ideas I like to sum up here, but what is in the center of EDSO project activities? We like to focus on strategic topics. They are really they really have a potential to be rolled out, because that's the part of our mission, that we have to carefully test, provide evidence-based conclusions, and then to send a message. Are those technologies ready to be rolled out over the Europe, or do we have to take into account also some national specificities? Data interoperability, I think I don't need to add more, because data interoperability is one of bedrock of the future, let's say, more integrated energy systems and grids. And I am very happy that today you can hear also some findings from the projects. They focus on let's say, data exchange, and the participants in the projects will collaborate more on, let's say, not only data exchange, but for preparedness to share the same platform. Excuse me, my fault. And energy communities also, it's a vital part of let's say, today mission of DSOs, because that creates opportunity how to bring additional value to customers, and how to integrate also other parties into DSO's life. What is also very supported by EDSO, it's a project collaboration with the third parties. Only to mention it, in the core of activities, DSOs collaboration, and let's say not only collaboration, but the real life participation in common projects. We also welcome projects. They focus on cross-sector activities, because we in EDSO, and also the main European DSOs realize the fact that we are part of energy system which should be reliable and let's say, manageable. Non-energy entities. I am very happy that also academia and municipalities in many countries have interest to join the projects where EDSO and EDSO members are active. The new future phenomena. We have discussed a lot about the hydrogen, and some colleagues told me, Richard, it's not a future, it's a reality. And I realized, okay, they are right, it's a reality. Hydrogen creates a big potential, but a lot of let's say, challenges we can expect, because from the point of economy, hydrogen is not technology which could be easily spread out. But what we think in EDSO, that the new technologies and research and development in a very short time could bring, let's say, a new action or new factors, because if research and innovation speed up the work, we can expect that hydrogen technology could be developed more than we can imagine now. And grid automation management also, it's not necessary to come into details, but if we are talking about the European systems, not only on transmission grid, and if we search for opportunities how to collaborate cross-border DSOs in order to support regional problems and to, let's say, to minimize cost, I think it will be in the spotlight. Another slide, please. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for joining this webinar, and I hope that you, at the end, you found today's webinar or seminar as a fruitful one, and hopefully it can bring you also additional value. Thank you for your attention.
Thanks a lot, Richard. Yeah. That being said, we would move on to the next speaker, Zoe de Linde. And without many words, I would just give the floor to you.
Thank you very much, Sebastian, and thank you to both you and Roberto for the opportunity to speak at this occasion. And I fully agree with what Richard has just said, that the projects bring value. They are absolutely essential to deliver on our ambitions. So it's very pleasing to be here today. So I'm Zoe de Linde. I'm Deputy Head of Unit for the Internet of Things Unit at DG Connect at the European Commission, and we work on IoT policy as well as implementation, particularly of the development of industrial data spaces. So this includes, of course, energy, but also mobility and agriculture. And it's quite interesting to have these three big industrial sectors because it brings home the necessity to have cross-sector integration. Next slide, please. So today I thought it'd be useful just to capture a bit the context in which we're working, to recall some of the opportunities and the challenges. And I will also like to raise a new action that has been identified in the Digitalization of Energy Action Plan, which is the development of a reference framework, a European reference framework for an energy saving application. So I will say a few words about that at the end, as well as some opportunities for investments. So, sorry, still on this side, yeah. So just to recall the EU ambitions, so we've set some targets to address climate change. So by 2050, the goal is to achieve climate neutrality. And to achieve this goal, the EU aims to have 45% of our energy mix coming from renewable resources by 2030 as part of the Repower EU plan. And additionally, the Energy Efficiency Directive outlines a target to reduce primary energy consumption by 32% compared to 2005 levels. And furthermore, the EU is committed to promoting the electrification of transport systems. So the recent Fit for 55 initiative sets a goal of having all new cars and vans in the EU by zero emission by 2035. So these are very big ambitions. They require significant transformation of multiple sectors. And this is a bit the context in which we're working. Next slide, please. For those that are already quite advanced in the transformation of the energy sector, there's a greater sense of urgency because of the impacts on the energy system. So here you see a few headlines which are really reflecting the concerns and particularly how you integrate, for example, renewables, how we integrate the new demand, the fresh demand from electric vehicles, and there is really a sense of urgency. Next slide, please. So the impact of these ambitions, there are a number of impacts. The notable one is the decentralization, means more distributed energy resources and a shift towards more localized energy systems. And I know that there are some member states where they've already reached a 30% share of the decentralized energy system. We see a shift is accompanied by greater electrification and the adoption of electric vehicles. This will spur the demand for new grid infrastructure. Digitalization, of course, plays a critical role in enabling efficient grid management and the seamless integration of distributed energy resources. And we need to ensure the security of our energy supply amid these geopolitical tensions that we're seeing, and also about concerns about energy dependence. And finally, the transition to a low carbon energy system. This is essential to mitigate climate change, as well as play a vital role in achieving the ambitions of the Green Deal. Next slide, please. So I think I'll leave this just as a reference. The slides will be circulated afterwards, so I will just move on to the next slide because I'll pick up on some of these challenges when we look at the benefits. So clearly the sector coupling, this allows for optimizing renewable energy production and consumption. And we see three high priority use cases. This includes flexibility services, smart charging of electric vehicles, and building management. And clearly, the digital enablers, this includes grid elasticity, grid integrated of EV charging, agile consumers, and this is where I'll speak a bit later about this energy saving application. As Richard mentioned earlier, the interoperable data services is absolutely key, almost a given. And this includes the development of data space, the use of cloud to edge infrastructure, as well as other digital enablers such as smart IoT, swarm computing, and other AI tools. Next slide, please. So this picture, I didn't want to sort of put too much emphasis on Brussels because, of course, we're talking across the whole of the European Union, but I chose this picture because it contains both the EDSO building at number 82 as well as our building, DG Connect, at number 51, almost opposite each other. But here I just wanted to highlight some of the benefits of the cross-sector integration. So this includes improved grid flexibility, so having access to a wider range of energy sources and storage solutions such as electric vehicles, batteries, heat pumps, which helps improve flexibility and allows us to better manage demand, enhanced system efficiency. So this is different sectors collaborate and integrate, can use energy more efficiently, share resources, and reduce waste. Reduced operational costs, having more distributed energy resources available, such as solar panels and small-scale wind turbines, help reduce the need for expensive equipment maintenance. Improve demand-side management. So this is by working with other sectors, we can align energy demand with supply, such again as charging electric vehicles during off-peak periods, or matching industrial processes with high renewable energy production. And this helps ensure that we use energy more efficiently and sustainably. And increase system reliability. So having diverse energy sources and storage solutions available can help to reduce the risk of system-wide failures and improve the overall resilience of the grid. This means we can better withstand unexpected events and continue to provide reliable energy to homes and businesses. And finally, digital technologies such as Internet of Things, big data analytics, AI, blockchain, cloud computing, these all play a critical role in enabling cross-sector integration within the energy system. And these tools help us connect different parts of the system and make better use of the data so that we can work more efficiently and sustainability. And again, I think, as Richard said, knowledge sharing is a de facto element of this. Next slide, please. Some of you will be familiar with the Digitalization of Action Plan. There are 6 pillars, and the aim is to enhance a data exchange framework, improve cybersecurity and resilience, adopt an EU-wide coordinated approach. We're also working on curbing the energy consumption of the ICT sector and promoting investments in these digital technologies to enable cross-sector integration. And I've marked in red this specific action, which is to develop a common European reference framework for an energy saving application. And if I move to the next slide, I can say a few words about what this entails. So the main components, it's really made up of 3 blocks, 3 pillars, if you like. On the left, you have the data sources. So this would include greater congestion data from TSOs and DSOs, energy generated data from network suppliers, real-time smart data on energy consumption patterns, and you could even go further and sub-meter data. So the pillar on the left is really the data sources. The pillar on the right is looking at consumer applications, and there are many, many consumer applications. I will mention a bit later a couple of reports that come out on this. So this is really applications that provide actionable suggestions to consumers to optimize consumption, to reduce the energy bills, to help in crisis situations, and it allows users to it's using consumer data, respecting the, of course, the data protection rules, so GDPR rules. And in the middle is really where you have the crucial data repository and exchange. So here we see the emerging energy data spaces. We would see the data analytics, the visualization, intelligence generated from weather forecasts and foresight data, and also we would see uniform rules to ensure data interoperability. So these are the three main components we see of a common European reference framework for an energy saving application. Next slide, please. So this next slide shows some of the benefits of such an application. So this allows for consumer voluntary energy reduction. It provides dashboard insights into energy consumption and allows the consumer to have a more active role in the management of their energy. Next slide, please. So this is the text taken from the Digitalization of Energy Action Plan, which describes the mandate to develop a common reference framework. So far, we have two studies, the ETRA study, which has done a landscape study analyzing the existing energy saving applications on the market. It's a very comprehensive study. It was just being published. So this will feed into the development of a blueprint for a reference framework program. Reference framework application. The second study is a study by the Smart Grids Task Force. This is from the expert group 3, which is focused on consumers. And here again, they've done a very good analysis of existing applications, and they've identified 6 levels of functionalities of these applications. And these studies will feed into the developments of the blueprint. The last one, the Interconnect, which I hope we'll hear a bit more about today, they are developing the blueprints. They are a project funded under Horizon 2020. We've just had a first level of the initial blueprints, and it's absolutely critical. I think for the delivery of blueprint is very much dependent on the actors engaged in this development, which includes DSO. So we really encourage participation in this project. They will have calls coming up, and I think they will say more about it later in the day, so I won't linger on that. The third image you have on the page is the recently adopted Digital Europe Work Programme 2023-24. So here's, and on the front, I've copied and pasted the reference for support for the reference framework. So there's a dedicated action with a budget of 5 million. The call is expected to open around May with a deadline in September. So this action will very much follow the work that's been done in the Interconnect project. So you will have all these slides after, so you'll be able to look into more detail. Next slide, please. So this slide just lists some of the opportunities ahead, and I've put down on Digital Europe the reference to the framework program. We will also have an action on developing the energy data space, and there's also an action under the CEF, that's Connecting Europe facility, for support for the operational digital platforms, and there the call is just closed. So we will be evaluating the projects under that call. My last slide, please. This slide, this shows that we are not starting from scratch. We're building on momentum, and there's some very exciting projects with very good work. And again, that's why it's a privilege to be here today, because it'd be very interesting to hear about the work's being done, and we will clearly be building on these activities. So with that, I will close and pass back the floor to Sebastian. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Zoe. So can I, yes, here are 2 more information slides. So far we have heard from Richard and from Zoe about I would say rather the high level framework. And with this context, the next step would be to dive more into the projects, put the spotlight on them. Therefore, I would like to invite all the panelists to maybe turn on the camera, if possible, for a second. Including the moderator, Valerie Reif from the Florence School of Regulation. Yeah, I would just hand over the floor to her, considering that we don't have too much time, as you can see here on the agenda. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Sebastian. Thank you for the kind introduction, invitation. Let me maybe jump right into it and introduce my panelists. You can already see them on the screen, and I would also ask them to leave their cameras on throughout the session. So first of all, we have Alette Pallier, who is a project manager at Enedis. And she's mainly responsible for a project that has a really cool name and that she will introduce to us later today. It's called the STAR project. And Enedis is working on that in the context of OneNet, which is the project that she is representing today. Then we have Gabriele Fedele, who is the head of funded projects at Areti Spa, and he is representing the Platone project, which we will hear about later. And then we also have Carlos Damas Silva, who is a project and policy manager at Eredes, mostly responsible for innovation projects, and he is representing the Interconnect projects. So we have a very packed agenda. We have 50 minutes, and we will have two parts in the following 50 minutes. The first is a brief presentation by each of our panelists. They will speak about the cross-sectoral challenges that their respective DSO organization is facing. And then they will introduce us to the solution that these respective, let's say, European projects offer to the challenges that they are facing. This is the first part. And then we will go into a second part, which is a more open discussion based on a set of questions that we have prepared ahead of this meeting, ahead of this webinar. As I said, packed agenda, so I would ask my panelists to stay within the time. And I can also warn you, because I have revised my French, Italian, and Portuguese in order to be able to count in your languages and remind you of the time. So be aware of that. And we have also a lot of people in the room, in the virtual room. And there is also a Q&A box, which I wanted to remind you of. So please, everybody, if you have questions to our panelists, write them in the Q&A box. I will pick them up as we go and where they are relevant. So don't wait until the end, but really, ask us all the questions that you have. And without further ado, we will go to the first part, which is an introduction of the DSOs, the challenges that they are facing, and the solutions that the project offers. And we will start with Alette, who has 5 minutes. Alette, go ahead. Alette, are you there? I cannot see Alette, maybe the connection failed. So maybe we can, I suppose that the DSO team is getting her back in the room. So maybe in the meantime, we can skip to the second project. And then it's Gabriele. Gabriele, you have 5 minuti. Go ahead.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you for this opportunity, because it's a very pleasure for me and for Areti to talk about our experience in Platone. In this chart, we report a brief overview about the Areti. Areti is the distribution system operator of Rome. The Rome area is very huge. We manage 1,000 of square kilometers, and in our area, for give you an idea, we encompass all the main city of Italy. In Rome lives 2.8 inhabitants, and from the electrical point of view, we can see that the Areti position is perfectly in line with the typical dimension of a European DSO, because in 2021 we have distributed 9.8 terawatt-hour of energy, and we feeds 1.6 point of delivery. The challenge that we have faced in Platone is strictly connected to what we expect from the next years on our grid, because we know that we can have a great increase of the electric vehicles on our grid. We are a urban DSO. And in this chart, we can see that if we have a great diffusion of the heat pump and electric vehicles on, for instance, on a secondary substation, we can have a congestion on some components of the grid in some periods of the years. So to avoid this congestion, we have two ways. One way is to reinforce the grid. Another way is to consider a new strategy, a new approach to manage the infrastructure. This is the way that we have select for the Platone. And on the right of this chart, we can see the figure that represent the architecture that we have implemented in the Italian demo. This is a local flexibility. This is the architecture of a local flexibility market that concern to the DSO to acquire flexibility from distribution energy resource using a market approach. In detail, in this chart, there are all the main platform useful for a flexibility market, because we have a market platform to match a flexibility offer and flexibility request. We have aggregator platform that elaborate the flexibility offer, a DSO technical platform for the flexibility request, and a shared customer database that is a unique database to collect all the information about the distribution energy resource connecting in low and medium voltage. In this figure, we can see also two components, namely the light node and blockchain, that compose the interface layer to connect the flexibility resource, the users, to the flexibility market. In the last slide, in the next slide, we can see what is the results of our project. In detail, we have developed a device named Light Node, installed by the DSO in the customer property, and these devices enable the end user to take part in the flexibility market. After we have developed a DSO technical platform, an IT platform that runs the grid forecast and detect the flexibility request on the local grid to solve the congestions. And this platform also can check the flexibility offer that aggregator send to the TSO to enable the distribution energy resource to provide flexibility on the global system. In this case, the DSO played the role, or played the important role to enable the users to involve it in the market. And this functionality is perfectly is coherently with the traffic light mechanism that in a lot of call we are developing now. After we have the last platform is a shared customer database that is a flexibility register where all the data about the distribution energy resource are stored and shared with the main stakeholders that take part in the flexibility market. All this component, we are using all this component in other projects that now we are developing. This project are Flow, that is an Horizon Europe project focusing on the electric vehicles. And in detail, we are studying the interaction between the electric vehicles and the grid in smart charging modality and vehicle to grid modality. We have Be Flexible. Also in Be Flexible, we study the interaction between the distribution energy resource and the grid and the flexibility that this resource can provide to the grid. But the focus on Be Flexible, it's about the mechanism, the coordination mechanism to concern TSO and DSO to manage the flexibility resource. And in the end, we have ROMFlex, that is an RET project in compliance with the Italian NRA, because in Italian we have a resolution to test a possible local flexibility market to concern the DSO to acquire the flexibility services from the local resource. This is that's all for the moment, Valeria.
Thank you, Gabriele. And I have one question in the chat. An attendee asks how hard is it to reinforce the grid infrastructure in the center of Rome? But I assume that this is exactly one of the reasons why you're looking into this alternative, right, of setting up a local flexibility market. So probably you are doing both, reinforcing on the one hand, but on the other hand, also looking for alternatives.
Yes, because for our condition, because it's very important to take in count this alternative solution, because we have also a lot of problem connected to the authorization in some part of the city. So if we can optimize the flow on the grid, the energy flow on the grid, we can avoid these congestions that is linked to a very limited part of the years. So if we can avoid this congestion, we can avoid the reinforcements for this for the grid.
Thank you, Gabriele. Thank you for your insights. I see that Alette is back with us, so we will move back a couple of slides, and I will give the floor to Alette to introduce the OneNet project. Alette, you have 5 minutes. Go ahead.
Thank you. Yes, Alette Barrier, I'm project manager at Enedis. First, I will present briefly Enedis and then OneNet and the French demo. Enedis is a main French DSO and ensure 95% of power distribution in France and serve around 37 million clients that are connected to low and medium voltage grids. We are in charge of developing, operating, modernizing the grids and ensure a stability 24/7. We also have to read smart meters data and organize all related technical intervention. Enedis smart meters rollout was an industrial success, and we now run one of the most reliable, efficient, and smarter electrical network according to Singapore Smart Grid Index. However, due to the both digital revolution and energy transition, Enedis activities have been changing a lot. We went from a purely centralized production to a decentralized and digitalized systems. To address this challenge, Enedis are working on grid management a lot recently. To reap the most benefit from the renewable, Enedis use local flexibility solution with a better CBA for energy communities rather than traditional network levers. In France, in addition to that local flexibility, we have existing compensation mechanisms, which is basically a contract signed between DSO and producer to manage their technical and commercial terms, and especially the condition of the curtailment activation. All those mechanisms brings a lot of complexity and between DSO, and producers, and so we need more transparency and traceability towards producers. We can go on the next slide, please. So OneNet project is a consortium with 72 partners, 23 countries in every region in Europe, and it's a group 4 clusters within 18 demos. OneNet project will provide seamless integration of all actors in the electricity network across Europe. We create conditions for synergetic operations that optimize the overall energy system. The first objective of OneNet is to define a common market for Europe. It means standardized project for grid services. It means coordination for all actors, from the operator to the consumer. The second objective is to define a common IT architectures and a common IT interface. It means enabling an open architecture of interaction among several platforms. The French demo is part of the Western clusters. The aim of this demo is to improve the TSO-DSO coordinations thanks to a platform called STAR. STAR means System Traceability Activation of Renewable. In this demo, we have 2 partners, RTE, the French TSO, and Enedis, the DSO. We also have producer which participating as user in the demo, but they are not part of the consortium. The STAR platform is a back office solution. It means it's not a real-time process. And the goal of this platform is to optimize the management of the renewable production curtailments. The platform covers the complete process of the activation process. It goes from the traceability of the order until the traceability of the producer compensation. With this demo, we provide more transparency and visibility on the transaction between DSO, TSO, and the actors, it means the producers, on the renewable activations. We focus this demo in south of West France, near Poitiers, in Nouvelle-Aquitaine. And we manage two use cases. The first use case is about traceability of renewable activation activated by RT Automate. And the second use case is about traceability of renewable curtailment activation done manually by Enedis for Enedis network needs. If we can go into the next one. Regarding the technical aspect, OneNet creates a unique IT architectures and framework to facilitate the platform integration and cooperation, and offer a secure, scalable, and well-documented solution. The French demo within STAR aim at building a blockchain-based platform in order to share data between DSO, TSO, and producer. One of the main goals of this is to simplify, optimize the compensation of producer after a flexibility activation. The demo will have the producer rely on a unique source of monitoring data. This monitored data are mostly activation order, metering active power, estimated energy not served during the activation period. And all this data are registered automatically on STAR platform within 1 or 2 months after being activated. These data are essential to check that the producer adapted the production according to the activation and compute the financial compensation. And to have this information stored on a shared ledger will ease the settlement process. Now the platform is running, and we are expecting user feedback by the end of October. And that's all for my presentation.
Thank you, Alette. I don't see any questions in the room, so maybe people are still digesting all your input and the novelties that you introduced. In the interest of time, I will go to our third speaker. So, Carlos, you have 5 minutos for the Interconnect project. Please go ahead.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, and thank you for the introduction, Valerie. As Valerie said, I'm Carlos Damas Silva, Project and Policy Manager at Enredes. Starting with just a brief introduction of the company. Enredes might be known for some of you as the former EDP distribution, which is a DSO in mainland Portugal, serving almost the entirety of the population and businesses in the several voltage levels that we operate. We operate the high voltage grid, medium and low voltage, totalizing for around 230,000 kilometers of grid, from which around 1/3 is from high and medium voltage. We have set digitalization and the facilitation of the energy transition as one of our core objectives, and for that we have several initiatives and a very comprehensive and challenging roadmap to help us achieve this. So we are taking on this forefront of digitalization, always developing innovative services for our customers to provide better data accessibility, also better data analysis, also leveraging on the smart metering rollout that we are performing right now. The last numbers I checked, we were at around 77%, so almost in the 80% mark, and we are foreseeing to finish finish this first phase of the smart meter rollout for the entire country around the end of next year. So very challenging times that we are participating in. Regarding R&D and also European projects, we have been participating in the past years in several of them, addressing these topics of flexibility, smart cities, IoT, data, of course, very interesting topic and very relevant for all the DSOs, of course, not just redes, but we are actively participating to acquire this knowledge and also to develop solutions that we can then adopt at a larger scale. And regarding these solutions, some of them are developed in the Interconnect project. So I think you can pass to the next slide, which is a project I'm today representing. The Interconnect project is also a big project that counts on the participation of 51 partners, and it lasts for 4.5 years. We are now entering the last year of the project. So as you might imagine, the demonstrations are starting. Some of them are already ongoing, and we are getting some results. But of course, it is very difficult to present the project in its entirety in 5 minutes. So I will focus on the main outcomes of the project, namely the semantic interoperability framework. This is I would say the core development of the project. Interconnect project focus on interoperability and communication between systems and platforms. And for that, the project has taken on the SAREF family of ontologies as the information model to represent that exchange, and has worked on it. So it has extended the SAREF for other cases, such as grid management, flexibility, forecasts, and thus this will allow for data representation for all these sectors. So this will enable definitely cross-sector interoperability. The focus of the project is not only or is energy, but linking on other sectors, as you can see in my diagram. And then it develops the software solutions that can be adopted by platform owners to make them interoperable. So we are building on existing platforms, assuming that these platforms will be used for the future, and most of them will, but still providing the way for them to be adapted and to increase this data sharing ecosystem. Another output of the project, and here we are more taking on this development with which is the DSO interface, which is the link between the Interconnect project and all these decentralized resources, buildings, smart mobility, and devices that are being connected to the grid. For that purpose, this DSO interface is a platform placed on the DSO, and the set of information or data models that can be used to interact between the DSO and these systems. We are creating flexibility mechanisms. We are also improving data sharing from the DSO to the general population, and trying to increase our observability of the lower voltages of the grid, namely leveraging on the data from these distributed resources. We are talking about electric vehicles, heat pumps, washing machines, dishwashers, and all kind of devices that have intelligence at the edge. All of this is being validated in several large-scale pilots. And I would just like to touch lastly on this slide on the common European reference framework for the development of energy-saving applications. As Zoe referred, Interconnect is working on that, and our objective is that the findings from the DSO interfaces, the DSO interface, and also the data models that we defined, and the interactions that are already being tested, can be taken as examples and as the reference for the development of these applications in an European scale. This is, of course, very relevant for the project, and we seriously think that we can contribute on that. Lastly, on my final slide, I would just like to give you a concrete example of what we are doing. This is not the only use case we are addressing, but it is one of the most it's very interesting use case because it's not obvious at first sight, but in one of the demonstrations from Interconnect, we are working with supermarkets, tertiary buildings from a major retail company in Portugal, which is Sonai MC. And we managed to find out that the cold systems from these stores, so you can think on the refrigerators from the food sections of the supermarket, have thermal inertia that can be used as a flexibility resource. If you shut off, for example, one section of the refrigerator, the temperature will not rise immediately, so it will give some time before it has to be activated again. And we are implementing this mechanism in many supermarkets and try to get flexibility from this particular resource to the grid. For that, we are implementing a set of platforms, building energy management systems, and also an aggregator platform for all of those buildings that then interacts directly with the DSO to find out flexibility needs, for us to know also what is the flexibility available from those systems, and then we can estimate if those particular systems have the ability to solve some of these constraints for the distribution grid, as referred also by Gabriel. We are also testing this not only with these cold systems, but also with electric mobility and also with the residential resources that we are installing on the demonstrations. So this is it for this initial presentation. If you have any questions, I will be happy to answer them.
Thank you very much, Carlos. I don't see yet any questions, but I think we had some very interesting insights. So maybe I can summarize very briefly. I think we've seen 3 different, let's say, challenges that were presented by the speakers. In the French case, I think the main use case is RES curtailment because of increasing volatility of renewables in the system. And then, of course, the challenge to coordinate with different actors, including the DSO, and the solution that is brought by OneNet and the French demo there is the STAR platform to enable these data exchanges and also to enable more transparency. In the case of the Italian demo and the project that Gabriele presented, there was the challenge of increasing numbers of electric vehicles and I think also heat pumps in your distribution grid area, leading to potential congestion issues in the future. And then the solution that the project is bringing of having a local flexibility market, I think operated by the DSO as an alternative, let's say, to traditional grid expansion. And in the use case that Carlos presented was, I think, a bit more in general, leveraging the benefits of digitalization and innovation for efficient grid operation, but of course, looking already into sector integration with other sectors. And then the solutions developed by the Interconnect project of really having interoperable solutions that connect these sectors like smart homes and buildings and grids. And he also brought this concrete example of actually white goods being leveraged for providing flexibility to the electricity system, right? So I think this is a bit the context that we've heard so far. And what we want to do now is to look at maybe the common themes that these projects are looking into. And we have prepared 3 sets of questions that we will ask to the participants. We have a bit of limited time, so maybe we'll have to change it around a bit because the idea that we had is we wanted to ask the same question to 2 projects and then have the 3rd project react to that and also share their own experience. Let's see, we will start and then perhaps we can only take 2 projects per question, but I think we will see. I will also take audience questions, just to remind everybody again that there is this Q&A box where you can ask questions to our panelists. And then I think we can move to the first slide and the first question, which is related to the topic of electrification. It was already hinted to by the Commission in the first presentation today, that there are big ambitions in terms of electrification of other sectors. And here I would like to first ask Alet, because Alet, your use case is integration of RES that you're dealing with at the moment in the STAR platform. But there might be other use cases in the future, you know, that are more concerning the integration and electrification of other sectors. So how is the OneNet solution tackling these issues currently and also in the future?
Okay. Within the OneNet project, there is several demos working on large-scale demonstration of innovative grids, and it deals with new services from demand response to storage and small-scale generation. One key element of this project is to define a common market for Europe. It's mean creation of standard products for grid services. The goal is also to optimize the coordination of all actors. If we have a look on the French demo, we work on the post-activation process to manage curtailment activation due to congestion management. And in fact, in this demo, we need more and more coordination between actors, so between DSO and producers. And what we've done in this demo is first to track all the activation order from RTE and NADs in the STAR platform. And we try to automatically this order are reconciliate together. And then, in fact, when we have this information, we also track all metering data like energy not shared, which are calculated. And we also track the price, the unit price, in order to calculate the amount of the curtailment. In that way, we have more transparency, and the producer have access to all the information. And we think that this platform contributes to optimize the integration of the renewable productions.
And Alet, are you also looking into other use cases, or are you already thinking about how to extend the STAR platform to maybe account also for more cross-sectoral use cases, or not yet?
We are waiting for the feedback from the users, but what is sure is that we will keep the process we define within this platform. And we're still analyzing the architectures, so the blockchain architectures.
Great, thank you, Alet. I will move to Carlos and ask you the same question. You see it on the slide. I think you already hinted to this integration of especially white goods sectors to leverage flexibility. And I also saw from the consortium that is on your project website that you're basically already living this new reality of an integrated energy system, because you have a lot of manufacturers and also heat pump manufacturers in your consortium. So how do you leverage, the solutions for both sectors? Because of course the electricity sector has an interest, but also from the side of the white goods or IoT heat pump sector, there is also interest in your solutions. How do you see that?
Yeah, that's a very interesting point. In terms of topologies of equipment that we are testing in the interconnect, we are dealing mostly with heat pumps, electric vehicle charging equipment, and also white goods, as you referred. And one of the things that the project tries and accomplished and is still accomplishing is the integration or the well, the alignment between all of these manufacturers to use the same language model and standard to communicate between their digital platforms. This will, of course, allow for a more integrated ecosystem at the residential level. We are testing at the residential level several brands of appliances and showing that they can be managed together using a single home energy management system, using open protocols and information models. And this is very important because that way we can then interact with those home energy management systems and optimize the usage of those resources to have a more active management of these connection points on the grid. Of course, these are almost two sides. I like to think on this as of course, the grid interests and also the user interests. And I think that those are very complementary because in some of the use cases, we are also try to merge this convenience service for the users and try to relate that with the grid needs and try to optimize these two parts of the world, which will be certainly needed for the future.
Thank you, Carlos. And you already took away my next question, which I wanted to direct at Gabriele. So I'm going to use the momentum because I wanted to ask Gabriele exactly about this. You're looking into use cases that, let's say, connect more the mobility sector and the electricity sector. And on your website, I discovered the word user-centric charging solutions. So I'm assuming that you're developing solutions that should, on the one hand, be user-centric and also be attractive for the user, but on the other hand, also fit the needs of the electricity system and its operators. So what are those solutions and what can you tell us about what you learned in the project?
It's a very interesting question. If I remember, the slide that we can about our architecture, the component that helped me to answer to replay this question is a component used by the DSO, named the DSO technical platform. This is a new tool implemented in the system of DSO that this platform talk with the traditional system of DSO to gather the classic data as topological information from the GIS or the metering, the measure from the metering infrastructure or the state of the grid by the SCADA. With this data, you know in real time what is the state of the grid. But in the DSO technical platform, we have implemented two services to forecast the load and the generation, to evaluate the flexibility request in the short-term market. Because in Platone, in the demo, in the Italian demo, we implemented day ahead and 6 real-time session to provide the flexibility from the distribution energy resources. So in these two services, load and generation forecast, we have the interaction with the new electric load that we expect that in the future arrive on our grid, especially from the electric vehicles and heat pumps. And in detail, to understand well what is the behavior of the electric vehicles on our grid, we are taking part in Flow. That is another project totally focusing on the electric vehicles. And we would like to understand what we can take in count in our simulation, the behavior of the vehicle that using a smart charge technology or the vehicle to grid technology. Because the flexibility request could be better if we know what is the really impact of this new technology on the grid. On the other end, another important aspect that we have developed in our demo is to integrate the low voltage grid in this technical platform, because we think that also involved the low voltage customer in the market, in the flexibility market. We can unlock the flexibility, especially in the urban area, and the users could be a very user-centric, and we can build a very user-centric market, because because we can have really involvement of the end users in the market. And we know that the challenge for involve the low voltage grid is very high, because the observability of the grid, especially in low voltage at the moment, is not very high. But in Platone and in the portion of the grid that we have examined in Platone, we have tried to involve also this part of the grid. Okay, that's all for this question.
Thank you, Gabriele. And I think it bridges nicely to the second question that you will see on the next slide, because we also wanted to go deeper into this DSO consumer coordination. And both Carlos and Gabriele have already hinted to it. So I will go the other way around, and I will start with Carlos, but I will ask you the same question, because you both were talking about user-centric solutions, user-centric markets. But we know from a lot of the projects, and also the ones that I'm involved in, that engaging end customers and engaging users in these research projects or research and development projects is often not so easy. But of course, we need them to understand better their needs, and also the, let's say, the signals or the incentives that they react to. So the same question to both of you: how well and how have you managed to engage users in your projects? Carlos, maybe you go first.
Yes, I can speak a little bit with more knowledge about our Portuguese demonstration. It is always challenging to engage end users, especially at the low voltage level, so residential users. We have managed and are managing to do this by offering sometimes these devices, and also pushing for this technological part of the demonstration in which people are interested. Also, we are facilitating the installation of this home energy management system, which will provide more visibility over the energy management of houses, which people value very much, because they see there an opportunity to save energy and to better manage their resources. And in what comes to the DSO consumer coordination for flexibility services, the DSO is mainly interacting both with this at the technical level, both with the home energy management system, to have more observability of the grid. As Gabriel said, it's very difficult to have this monitoring of the low voltage grid, but if we have devices that are acquiring voltage levels and instant voltage, we are capable of retrieving these values back to the DSO, and knowing if there are some issues that we can tackle. And then for the flexibility part, so the real flexibility of deviating load, we are interacting with an aggregator, which is optimizing the set of home energy management systems in a certain area of the demonstration, which in turn then optimizes the M's. We are trying to make this as transparent as possible for the consumer, so the consumer does not have to know that he is providing services to the grid. Just there is flexible for the home energy management system to schedule the loads in the best way possible, both to achieve well the well-being and also the grid in this case. And also we are tackling some sustainability signals in the home management in the M's, such as the current penetration of renewables at that specific time, and as I've said, trying to optimize those signals both from the DSO, also from the overall system, so that we can schedule the loads in the most effective way. And of course, if the consumer consents to do it. If he does not, he also has the possibility to choose how to better use their resources.
Great, thank you. Same question to Gabriele. How well did you manage to include end consumers or end customers in your demo?
My answer is very similar to Carlos, because in our demo we developed something similar to Carlos explained just a few minutes ago. In detail, we would like in Italian demo involve the user connect in medium, especially in the low voltage. So we have defined a structure composed by devices that named light node in the architecture that we have installed in the customer properties. These devices, developed by DSO with the other partner of the Italian demo, is able to gathering from the main meter the real-time measurement using a standard interface defined by the Italian electoral committee. And on the other end, this device talk with the DSO to receive the activation command for the flexibility. These data, activation command and measurement, are certified on blockchain and sending to a flexibility register. So in the flexibility register, there are the data of the resources that all the stakeholders can acquire for the several services. For instance, we have the marketplace that acquired the measurement from the flexibility register to perform the settlement, or the aggregator can acquire the measurement from the flexibility register to evaluate the offer for the next session of market flexibility. So in our the scope, one of the scope of our demo is to facilitate the enabling of the end user to take part in the market. And if an aggregator would like to involve a customer in the market, he can acquire the measurement from the flexibility register after an authorization about the end users and the DSO. And on the other end, can send the activation command to DSO, and DSO forward it to the light node. We think that thanks to this infrastructure, we can increase the involvement of the users in the market, because as said before, in Rome we have a great part of the customer in low voltage, and we think that only unlock the flexibility of this customer, we can have a really market inclusive for the flexibility.
Thank you, Gabriele. And I think both your projects are still running, so it will be interesting to see maybe in a final deliverable, what were the methods to engage consumers and some kind of evaluation of how well that worked. We have one more question and only a couple of minutes left, so I will turn to the third question and also to Alette, because the third question is on digitalization. And we wanted to know a lot, all of you have mentioned now new technologies, new tools, flexibility registers, platforms, and the like. And of course, they have to be integrated into an existing system that is the electricity system and also the related IT system. So we wanted to know, how do you manage these new solutions that you're developing, but that have to be interoperable with also the existing tools that are already used? And Alette, I will give you the floor to answer this question.
Okay. Exactly. Within the French demo, we create a new platform, so the STAR platform, and in that platform, we decided to create how do you call that, a database which will be the interface between the within the STAR platform and the existing architectures at Enedis. So the blockchain is used to visualize the data which are created in the existing IT architecture. So we put it in the how you call a temporary, not a temporary, a database, and this data will be charged in the STAR platform on the OneNet in the Enedis node. It's the same for the other nodes, because as you know, in the blockchain technology, each entities have their nodes, and everybody, so Enedis or HE as a producer, put their data in the node, and all the data are shared in the shared ledgers. So it was a challenge, in fact, to integrate this new platform in the existing IT technology, existing IT architectures.
Thank you, Alet. I want to ask the same question to Carlos, because I think Interconnect is doing a lot of work also in the area of standardization, and we know that standards are also an important tool to foster interoperability. So what are you doing there, and how do you make sure that the solutions that you're developing are not just another competing tool or another competing solutions, but actually fit into this landscape that is already there?
Yes, I would say that we have different developments for the grid and then for the interaction with the entirety of the ecosystem. Regarding the grid, we are performing developments on this DSO interface, which is sort of the bridge to these distributed energy resources, and that will enable flexibility usage. But we still have some work to do on our internal tools, and we are doing that work. Namely, I can give you the example of identifying flexibility needs. It seems simple, but we have the software tools and the mechanisms to detect constraints, but identifying which actions will solve those constraints, it's still not straightforward. So this is one kind of the developments that we are trying to do. And the DSO interface takes also this approach of being modular and service-based. So we may expect like a microservices approach in which we interact between the tools using API services. Another thing is on the interactions between the companies and the sector stakeholders, in which we are using SAREF. As you might know, SAREF is more focused on the buildings, on the household level, but we managed to extend SAREF up to the grid, and this semantic interoperability framework that the project is putting forward does not require an extensive adaptation of existing systems, existing digital platforms. The main purpose of it is to take on these legacy systems and then place some one connector in there that will translate your legacy data model, which does not need to be changed, into a SAREF compliant information model that then will be shared across all the actors. This is very important, especially for the manufacturers, and one of the strong points of Interconnect, because you have a different platform for Miele, you have a different platform for Whirlpool, for Bosch, for all these kind of manufacturers, and you still are able to interact with these equipments in the same way, using the same message, if you adopt the semantic interoperability framework from Interconnect. And also with the DSO, yes.
Thank you, Carlos. Ezio allowed me to go 5 minutes over time, but now we're reaching that limit. So we will have to stop here. Thank you very much to the panelists. I would have many more questions, but maybe we can take that in a different webinar. And I think just one more sentence. I think the panelists, Gabriele, Alet, and Carlos, they confirmed what Richard Witliczka said earlier this morning, that projects are indeed important for the daily business also of DSOs, because they allow them to experiment and to find new solutions that they can then apply to these daily and future challenges that they're facing. So thank you very much, and I'm handing back over to Sebastian.
Yeah, thanks a lot for this very interesting panel discussion. And I hope for the audience you enjoyed this quite different format that we usually have with these webinars. So once again, thanks a lot. And I'm sorry, I think we didn't get the last question from the Q&A box, but please feel free to send us your questions also via email, projects@edso4smartgrids.eu. And we're going to be happy to connect you with the right people to get your answers. That being said, we will end a bit later, but not that much, and definitely not too late to send you into your lunch break. I would hand over to Maria now to talk about the EDI project and closing the skills gap in Europe. Maria, please, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks to EXOT for having me here among such a wonderful panelists. I'm going to be fast. Well, before talking about what we have been working on in the EDI project, I would like to give some context to understand why we are doing this project. As all you know, Europe has a unique opportunity to establish global leadership in the energy transition and shaping the future energy system. And to decarbonize the current energy system, swift progress is needed towards more efficient energy usage based on emissions-free energy sources. So in this new setting, electricity will play an essential role due to this efficiency and flexibility. The electricity system is aimed at transformation, as all you know, as a technology and innovation disrupt traditional models from generation to beyond the meter, with the networks as a big backbone. At EDI, we have focused on the digitalization that is affecting all the energy sector, which is undergoing a deep transformation due to this critical importance in achieving sustainability. This digitalization of the system presents new challenges such as cybersecurity and the need to manage flexibility options, like demand response and improving the efficiency of the energy sector. There is a growing need for workforce with the right skills to adapt, continuously reskill and stand out in this new era, which has transformed the way we live and the way we work. Anticipating the demand for skills is essential to address major technological and economic challenges and changes. The EDI project is therefore aligned with one of the EU's main objectives, to fill the skill gaps faced by the rapidly changing labor market. Next slide, please. Hello, Sebastian, could you move for the next slide?
Yes, for me, it's already there. Maybe the connection is a bit slow.
Okay, perfect. So the EDI project aims at creating a sector skills alliance by bringing together all the relevant stakeholders in the energy value chains, such as industry, education and training providers, European organizations, recruiters, social partners, and public authorities. The main objective of this SAA is to develop a log-driven blueprint for the digitalization of the European energy sector, to enable the matching between the current and the future demand of skills necessary for the digitalization of the sector and the supply of improved VAT systems and beyond. This will be demonstrated and validated in a pilot environment that we are working on right now. In this way, EDI proposed an innovative strategic approach for the equation where the skills emerge as a need of the real application instead of the classic approach that starts from the fundamentals to research application. The first operational objective is to define the methodology for identifying these skill gaps by developing a common approach to assessing the current situation and anticipating future needs. In this framework, the identification of mismatches between the skill demand of the industry and the skill offer from the education and training provider is crucial, and is the first important step for the development of this blueprint. This project will set the ground for a new generation of technicians, engineers, and researchers who are able to use, develop, improve, and deploy new energy technologies in order to contribute to the digitalization of the sector and the energy transition. So next slide, please. We're speaking about the work package. In these work packets, the analysis and identification of skill gaps in both industry and curricula. Identifying skill gaps is a challenging task considering the whole energy sector. For this reason, it has been important for the consortium to seek direct dialogue with industry and training providers as often as possible. The methodology is based on skills intelligence, which is the outcome of an expert-driven process of identifying, analyzing, and presenting quantitative and qualitative skills and labor market information as well. This may be drawn from multiple sources and adjusted to the needs of different users. The first step was to address the challenges facing the sector to extract information regarding the skills, knowledge, and competence that the industry currently requires to cover system needs. In this direction, relevant occupations were identified to have information on recruitment trends in the industry, as well as the associated skills and knowledge that they are necessary to succeed in these positions. The next step was to determine whether the skills demand is covered by the skill provided by the education and training institutions. To perform these tasks, it was necessary to identify the skills offered as well as the status of professionals and graduates. By reviewing the curricula of prestigious institutions in Europe, going through the study programs, some relevant skills were extracted. Due to the fact that the education and training can come from different sources, online training platforms were reviewed as well, with an analysis of the courses offered and skills acquired. Industry training programs and corporate universities have also been analyzed to see how the industry itself retrains and upgrades employees. Last but not least, 3 surveys and several targeted interviews with industry executive and training providers have been carried out to obtain more information. The first survey has addressed the main challenges facing the industry in the digitalization of the energy system, the use of technologies and tools, the added value produced, and the new skills needed for the new digital era. The second survey focused on skills demand, which include the level of skills required for particular skills, as well as the current coverage of this skill in industry. And the last one, the third one, collect information from training providers on the skills and knowledge they impart at the corresponding level of qualification a graduate is expected to attain after completing the specific student programs. You can see in the slide a figure that has an overview of this methodology. And just to finish, next slide, please, for the conclusions. I would like to draw the following conclusions after a completion of this analysis that we did in the work package of the project. The first one is the lack of adequate skills of employees is pointed out by most of the participants as an important matter to tackle. Most of the companies provide training to their employees with a preference to in-house training. A mismatch could arise when the provided skill set is greater than the demand resulting to over-skilled or over-educated professionals. Another thing is that the huge amount of data that will be generated in the future smart electricity system can be branched in 2 directions. The first one refers to smart and efficient use of this information through machine learning algorithms. As a result, occupations covering artificial intelligence techniques should be part of the future jobs list. The second one leads to regulatory aspects of processing the data that are not yet clear. Biggest challenges in the upskilling process can be summarized by the word integration. The same phenomenon which is applied in the networks right now, like integrating new users' behavior, new electricity uses, new generation, and new human resources, are also the integration topics which are challenging current system operators and facilitators in the market. But the real challenge is not to find an expert in a single area, but to contract a combination of knowledge pools. We used to be a good engineer for a DSO, like should be today a combination of an electrical engineer, a communications engineer, and someone who understands computation or at least common languages in programming, together with the capability to understand and know how to deal with big data and to get insights of this data. The importance of transversal digital and green skills, resilience, and adaptability techniques is stressed and needs to find a place in the curricula of educational institutions and on the agenda on training providers. Just to finish the overall, the performed works indicates that the most significant skills gaps towards digitalization in the energy sector, as are reflected by the different types of analysis that we make, converts towards data management and analysis, big data, cybersecurity, and programming and development competence. So thank you all.
Thanks a lot, Maria. And I think considering it is the European Year of Skills 2023, I think this is a very fitting presentation. And also considering what we've heard before, I think this adds another level to the whole discussion that is quite important to keep in mind. The next step of our morning would be the wrap up and outlook. Here we have invited Catherine from Sen and Senelec to, again, we've heard it before, dive more into the topic of standardization. Catherine, I would give the floor to you.
Thank you, Sebastian. So first of all, thank you for giving me the task, or the complex task of having the final words of such an interesting event. So as said, I'm Catherine. I'm leading the Energy and Living Department of the Sen and Senelec Management Center. It is the back office of Sen and Senelec. And maybe to start with, if you wish to go to the next slide, Sebastian, yes, thank you. Let's maybe introduce Sen and Senelec. As you may know, Sen and Senelec are two of the officially recognized European standardization organizations, recognized by whom? Recognized by European legislation. What we do is that we strive to produce high quality standards for products and services that incorporate asset quality, safety, environmental issues, interoperability, and accessibility. Our members, because we are membership organizations, are the national standardization bodies and the national committee of 34 countries. Which countries? 27 EU countries, plus UK, plus 3 EFTA countries, plus Serbia, plus North Macedonia, plus Turkey. And you see on the screen their logos. Once approved, and this is very important, and you can already go to the next slide, a standard, no, it was the previous one. Skip one? No? Oh, I missed one. No problem. Once approved, a European standard is identically adopted in the 34 countries, and having one single standard, of course, offers clear advantages because it facilitates cross-border trades, ensure that products and services we buy and sell in Europe have all the same high degree of quality, and that we build together just a true harmonized single market. So, Sen and Senelec developed thousands of European standards across many product and services sectors. I will not name them now, but you might be interested to know that in 2022, for instance, we developed more than 1,600 standards, and this is adding up to a portfolio of more than 25,000 standards existing. And you might be interested to know, because this is maybe you are maybe more familiar with Senelec world, that Senelec portfolio is composed of 7,000 standards, of which 76% is identical or based on IEC deliverable. And also, just to give you an idea, 60% of the Sen and Senelec portfolio of standards address safety issues. So this is really at the core of our activities. I mean, standards protect the single market, and this is very important from the risk of fragmentation. This is what we do. If you go to the next slide, yeah, exactly. A European standard is the same for all countries in the single market. A product compliant with a European standard will be sold across Europe. And this, as you have seen in the slide before, but stay on that slide, Sebastian, all this huge work is accomplished thanks to a network of 90,000 experts coming from all around Europe, and this is very important to underline. Some of the sectors we are currently active includes, for instance, climate adaptable and resilient European infrastructure, of course, but also circular economy, hydrogen, semiconductor, data interoperability, or artificial intelligence, but this is just to name a few. And if you go to the next slide now, I just would like to share with you some reflections following today's exchanges. on how standards could support the spread of innovative projects. So I'm sure there is no need to convince you that innovation is critical to ensure the twin transition. And we have seen in the presentations also from the representative of the European Commission that new geopolitical and energy market realities require Europe to drastically accelerate the clean energy transition and increase Europe's energy independence. Strengthening, of course, the competitiveness of the European clean energy sector will contribute to increase the European technology sovereignty, and of course to shape a more resilient energy system. And of course, innovation is needed to support the increase also electrification of end-use sectors. And we all know that innovation must be broader than just technological research, development, and demonstration. It must be accompanied by and integrated with innovation in business models, policies, processes, and market design. And new technologies can only better compete in globalized market if requirements are, of course, harmonized and safety, performance, and quality ensured. And this is why in SEN and SELEC, we believe that standards bridge the gap between research and market and increase the, let's say, the probabilities of market uptake of technological innovation. And as we see it, standards and innovation should not be approached as separate concepts, because research and innovation, can act as catalysts for the development of standards themselves. We see standardization really as a way to ensure innovative product consistency as it scale and grow into different markets. We also, stay on the previous one, please. Thank you. Standards, to our humble view, create trust and enable consistency as well as ensure interoperability. And this has been acknowledged by the European Commission not so long ago, because they published earlier this month a new code of practice on standardization for researchers. And this code of practice provides a set of recommendations to beneficiaries of public-funded research and innovation programs on how to valorize their projects' results through standardization. So we see standards are accelerators of changes by promoting innovation and uptake of new digital technologies, for instance. We also seen today from the panel that digitalization is crucial, and that this is the second point I wish to address, but stay on that slide, Sebastian. Digitalization, of course, presents a major change in the way we live, in the way we interact also as a society, and also as in the way we do business. So the gathering and, let's say, the conversion of data into a digital solution offers, of course, unprecedented opportunities for business to make better informed decisions, to be more efficient, and to develop innovative products and services. So this increasing digitalization makes, and I do not need to remind that the energy system is smarter and enable also consumers to better benefit from the from innovative energy services. That means that we are all part of a dynamic ecosystem, but also as part of a, I mean, from the standardizer point of view, we are also part of a global standardization community that is constantly evolving in response to these changes. And we are also in a fast-moving global economy, and we need to catch up with the rapid rate of technological innovation. So that's why, from our point of view, standards also needs to be more increasingly integrated and capable of addressing a wider range of converging technologies, infrastructure, and industry. And we are determined as SEN and SELEC to be at the forefront of the evolution and to take on progressive and leading role in the global standardization community. We are really committed to providing the European industry with the necessary tools to power the digital transition. I also would like to to mention that according to a paper from the European Parliament that was issued in 2019, it has been acknowledged also that standards can facilitate the digitalization of industry by promoting compatibility and interoperability between product and processes. And they can also transfer information between economic agents or machines while guaranteeing minimum level of quality and safety. This is an acknowledgement from the document. So this is really showing, explaining how we contribute. And I believe that to succeed the ongoing transition, it has made clear from the different presentations today that it is critical to move away from a silo-based approach and to embrace the, let's say, horizontal character of the digitalization to deliver a common set of standards applicable to all sectors. And this is why digitalization is one of the key action or key goal of the Sense strategy 2030. And we really set the path to continue building a strong and resilient and future-proof system. And if you go to the next slide, I also just wish to share with you an example that I'm sure you know better than I do of the development of key standards in the energy market, and that was an example from some years ago. But of course, let's go back in this very interesting example showing that standards enable interoperability as well as avoid high compliance costs and divergent national approaches. And so back in 2012, yeah, so it dates a bit, Sen and Select were requested by the European Commission to develop standards supporting the deployment of smart grids in Europe. So we've been mandated. And what is interesting is that this work require standardizers to break silos, really, and to ensure the involvement of all relevant stakeholders, including EDSOs, just to name one. But the point was that when we were requested to ensure the involvement of all stakeholders, was the involvement of stakeholders who at that time not necessarily were not in contact with each other. So in other words, we were asked to put around the same table different types of stakeholders. And thanks to that, let's say, involvement and really good work of the different experts involved, more than 300 European standards enhancing the upgrading of the energy system were developed and are still being developed. And to be very clear, in fact, for the smart grids, it was, for the smart grid standards, it was Europe. It was really us leading the exercise, and the work has been taken over, for instance, by our counterpart at international level by IEC. And I said, I believe I can say that that work done together with, within the standardization areas, shaped the energy market. And I believe that, I can say this because I recognize the smart grid architecture model, or at least a part of it in the OneNet presentation, if I'm not wrong. So as you've just seen, standardization supports really the creation of sustainable, resilient, and strongly interconnected industrial ecosystem. As it is a way to guarantee a level playing field for companies of all sizes to input their solution and enter the ecosystem. So that's how we see, let's say, ourselves. If you go to the next slide, Sebastian, everything that I've just said is really at the core of the Sense strategy 2030, where we really want to enhance our added value as solution provider and attract new generation of standards maker. And our aim is really to continue to offer an open, accessible, seamless standardization system for all stakeholders. And we see the twin transition as an opportunity for Europe, really, to boost its competitiveness. And this is quite, to my humble view, clear from the presentations today that standards have a role to play in promoting security and safety of products and services, in building trust in emerging technologies, and working to find consensus to enable a state-of-the-art solution for Europe and to be put on the market. It has also been made clear from the discussion that traditional ways of working need to be reviewed, or let's say, change, adapt, I don't know, align, to ensure that all relevant stakeholders and key actors for the provision of the twins transition are available. So from our side, from the Senseic side, we are also doing our digital transformation to ensure that stakeholders benefit from the state-of-the-art digital solution, so that we are able to produce standards fit for the digital economy, that we are able to also make evolve the standards development process and really transforming also our business model for the digital area. And to conscious of the time, let's say, I would like to close my intervention with some points which I believe reflect the main point of today's discussion. When I say we, I mean standardizers as well as industry and innovators need to be in tune. And you can go to the next slide, Sebastian, sorry. We need to be in tune with the evolution of society and the economy. We need to anticipate change. We need to understand user needs, and this is really the essence. And yeah, we need to imagine, let's say, the endless possibilities of digitalization, think of the urgency of the green transition to fight global climate change. So we really need to move forward in that direction. And another thing that I want to say is that standardization usually reflects a more traditional industry relationship and are largely focused on physical goods. And however, the very disruptive character of new technologies also forge new paths, and this is very important. So digitalization challenges long-established business models to move from vertical sector to horizontal type of collaboration. And this is something we are taking into account in the standardization community with the development of smart standards, for instance. So we are really keen, and we know that new forms of collaborative innovation must be explored, focusing on a wider variety of organizations, not just company. And with, let's say, more and more cross-cutting issue standardization, we believe enhance synergies and awareness rising about methods and tools to efficiently, let's say, manage system and infrastructure. And we believe we really have, I mean, standardizers have an important role to play in going from a fragmented approach to an harmonized approach. And something I did not mention before, and I promise it's my last word, Sebastian, is regarding the Europe ambition to become the most advanced knowledge-based economy in the world. And for this to happen, indeed, we need to bring research and innovator practitioners in standardization activities. This is for us an absolutely must. We need also to bring young people and young, let's say, young researchers in our areas. Because they can bring new, fresh ideas. Let's move everything, and that's really very important, because we really need to have a standardization system which is as diverse as possible. And this is really my last word, Sebastian. And thank you for your attention, and thank you again for the very interesting workshop today. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Katharine. I think you managed really well to bring all of the points from today together with the focus on standardization as promised, but I also like that you focused on the global aspect of the whole issue in the end. So I think you added like another really nice layer to it. So thanks to everyone who stayed that long. We're a bit over time. In the end, I also wanted to thank Selene Liverani and Tiffany Jordan for working in the background on this event. It's always more people than only the ones you see on the screen. Thanks for all the speakers, the panelists especially. And I hope to see you next time for the 5th EDSO Projects in the Spotlight event, which we're going to announce at one point in the future. Enjoy your lunch, it's well deserved, and see you next time. Thanks a lot for joining.